Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. I am George Armistead, and I am here with both my co-hosts, Molly Brown and Alvaro Jaramillo. We are Life List, a birding podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing
How are
great.
you?
Excellent, mostly. Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on, everybody?
Well, yeah. I'm slightly furious, actually. I'm slightly furious, moderately furious.
You're not containing it very well.
I know. I'm really a little upset, actually.
And I think I kind of caused this in a version.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I don't blame you, but it is.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Yes,
what they
you're
say.
definitely the messenger, and I'm definitely a little fired up today. I'm razzed. I'm upset. Yeah.
What are you fired up about, George?
Well, this eBird situation. I was holding strong there for Philadelphia, 305, 306, something like that. And they, quote unquote, have cleaned the lists. Cleaned, they say. Right? So now I'm down to 300. Thank God. If they knocked me down to 299, I'd be apoplectic right now. I'd be beside myself. But as it stands, I'm at 300. I can live with that. But and mostly I'm okay with what I see here. If Molly, you pointed out there's the detailed stats for me to review, and that is where the rub is. There's the 54 additional taxa. That's cool, right? You know, I got your crow / raven spa. You got your short-billed / long-billed dowitchers, your cormorant spas. Even got a porpoise spa in there, Al. You like that?
Porpoise?
Yeah, I've had those twice in Philly. And then I've got my 8 hybrids.
I thought you said porpoise. I'm like, well, that can't be a bird.
I have seen a seal in Philadelphia once. That was pretty badass.
Like
And
the
you put
singer,
that on your
seal?
eBird?
No, but porpoise, porpoise is the little tiny parrotlets that we were seeing, you know, like those, the spectacled parrotlets of porpoise. I've seen
That's
those
pretty
twice
cool.
in Philly. Yeah, but they're probably Pacific parrotlets. And those are bona fide escapees, all fine and good, probably Pacific parrotlets, but I put them down as porpoise spa. But I have been robbed of my northern Bobwhite from FDR Park. And that it's a native bird, right? Perhaps introduced, perhaps shoveled off a truck, whatever. No one can tell me that is the case for certain. And also, monk parakeet, also an established exotic, and ring-necked pheasant, established exotic. So those three, I'm not cool with that. Like the Muscovy duck, sure, yeah, I get it, man. But like, certainly the Bobwhite, I should be able to slide on that. And the ring-necked pheasant, I mean, I basically saw the last one that was, you know, from the decades long, you know, presence of them here in Philly. They died out. I think the last one basically died 2011. But no longer allowed to count? I don't know, man. I don't think that adheres with ABA rules, at least.
Well, I guess you could take it up with the local eBird reviewers because they may be able to change things in the filters and say, hey, yeah, George is so old that he saw some
they
of
took my pterodactyl as well. They took my pterodactyl.
Stuff,
yeah.
So, and the reviewer is probably, somebody who's much younger than you and you didn't even realize, there was, Carolina parakeet record.
This is where I tell you, Alvaro, that I am reviewer for Philadelphia. So I will take it with me. I'm going to take it up with me, and me are going to have some words.
So George, Molly and George have been away in Colombia. George's been away a long time in Colombia. So it's almost like, he's the castaway on an island, he comes back, he's been unfrozen or whatever, from sleep for 20 years and realizes all of this has changed. Like,
what's going on? Yeah.
What's going on? And I guess to give people a background, what eBird has done is they have said, okay, we had all of these things that go in your list, but some things are truly wild, birds. Others are birds that are, established and common, like starlings and so forth, and those count. So those are naturalized. There's some that are provisional. I guess it's sort of like they haven't decided yet what to do with them. Maybe it'll change in a few years. And then other things are just, if you see a, blue or white colored budgie flying around, it's definitely an escapee, or a white peacock, walking around a parking lot. And then there's the additional taxa, which were all sort of the slashes and things and hybrids. So they've separated all this out, which I think is like a lot of work.
Oh my God.
I got to say, like, this is amazing, painstaking work they did. But maybe now the thing is to sort of fine filter some of this stuff now that we have the bins, right? Like you said, like maybe these things shouldn't have gone off your list. Although I think it'd be more exciting if they are off your list. You have to work harder to get to where you were.
You, sir, are wrong. No, I suppose someone will probably, do something about pheasants and bobwhites. I don't know. Who knows? But unlikely to pick those up anytime soon. Ever again. The monk parakeet might pick that up. Who knows?
Did any of you lose anything from your yard lists?
Now that is a good question.
That's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's where we're really talking importance.
No, that would be not cool.
Figure out where you find that.
It'd be bona fide not cool.
Explore and yard totals.
I think I'm still in the same. I'm still at the same spot. I'm not likely to get much where I'm at, exotic wise, anyway. So,
I got 2 escapees: yellow-fronted canary, European goldfinch from my yard. 2 hybrids, and then a whole bunch of additional taxa.
All I've got is 15 additional taxa. So.
I got the classic Rufus/Allen's hummingbird, which you don't get to use much of over there, I guess.
Nope. Nope. Not. Yeah. I hopefully will never get to use that. We'll just know which one it is.
Yeah. I think, I think your reaction was exactly what I've observed. The Chilean birders, when some of this was about to happen, we were talking about it when I was in Chile. They called it the February earthquake is coming. It's like the shakedown. They said terremoto de febrero, and it's like they were all like wondering what would happen in the top 100 because it was going to shake out some people who had been just counting everything, they were just collecting numbers rather than collecting sort of listing
data.
Wild birds or data, So they were bloated lists out there. And then those who sometimes even were really diligent and weren't putting in, maybe it wasn't diligence, but it was like, I don't know what you call it, but they weren't putting in things that they knew were escapees in their list. I always have, just because I think it's important to have the info. But I was always annoyed that they were showing up on the list. So you sort of had to subtract. Oh yeah, don't count the European goldfinch. Yeah. But the overall original, the first time you look, everybody was like bummed.
Yeah.
They dropped.
Yeah, it feels like a loss. It feels like a loss. Yeah.
But you don't think of the win is that you actually have a real clean, better list than you did before. You've improved in a sense when you have it.
Yeah,
but people's perception or whatever.
Yeah,
you get, it's like tax refund or not, right? It's like,
yeah. But just made me look at the calendar. I'm in a panic when you said tax refund.
Yeah.
So the top 100 now is not counting escapees, right?
Right. That's what I understand. Like, the top 100's clean 100. It'll include anything that's considered naturalized, right? Like, so starlings and But anything that's kind of borderline, maybe like monk parakeet might be borderline, or who knows, or it might be state by state.
Ringneck pheasant, I'm kind of surprised by, like, because that, obviously non-native and all that, but
yeah, both of those are not flagged for me in West Virginia. I've got them both on my list, and it's not listed as or discounted from my total.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder what the criteria. I wonder if it's like if they consulted state records committees or anything like that. I don't know. Just review lists, maybe. This will require.
What'd be interesting here is like what happens to Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
That could be a mess.
Yeah.
Gonna take a look at that.
Take a look at Hawaii with the detailed stats.
Yeah, that could be ugly.
That's weird, actually. There's a ton of them are naturalized.
Huh.
Just, escapee. What do I have? Mallard.
Yeah, you see, I think ringneck pheasant might, they're not established really in Pennsylvania anymore. So maybe that has something to do with it. Monk parakeet, they're established in some nearby states, but not in Pennsylvania really.
Huh.
And same with Bobwhite. So, curious.
Yeah. When did you get your Bobwhite record?
Let's see. It would have been 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I Bobwhite is sort of a funny one because I don't really believe that I don't know what to believe, but I kind of assume it was not genuinely wild bird, but it is a native bird. And the thing that's, I think, awkward about it is that, just across the river in South Jersey or down in northern Delaware, which is a stone's throw away, all the Bobwhite in both of those places are just by default deemed wild birds. So, why in, extreme Southeast PA are they, not taking a similar stance? I don't know.
Was your Bobwhite in a cage at all?
It was. Yeah, it was in a cage. No, it was actually, there was
a photograph. I gave them information.
There were some of the best photos of Bobwhite I ever got. I will say that, but it was
alone.
Yeah, it's a little questionable. Yeah,
right. If you saw it well, it's not wild.
Yeah.
Although,
it's just. Sorry, go ahead.
No, if you go to some places where Bobwhites are pretty common, I remember in some spots in Texas, like you always think of them as being really shy and so on, but then they were not in places where they're abundant. Well, I wouldn't call them abundant, but at least relatively frequent. And then they're so shy in places where they're not that frequent. And I wonder if they're not that shy. It's just, there's not that many.
Right.
Like the key. Right.
Well, it is amazing. Like, their decline is just, dramatic, in the last few decades. And it's a bird I remember, seeing flushing coveys of. I think we've talked about it before on the pod here. So I think that's part of the reason why that one stings me from Philly is because it's like, I was like, this may or may not be a legit bird, but it's going to be the only one I ever see in Philly,
Huh.
And like, I think it would be just as hard to prove that it wasn't wild as to make the case that it, that it was. So given that, I was inclined to just count it, but certainly can be argued either way and perhaps more persuasively from the other side.
Maybe it's like an age limit. If you are, if you were born before this year, you can count Bobwhite because they were common at some point in your life.
Grandfathered in.
And therefore you're kind of grandfathered in, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about that?
I like it. Yeah. I mean, I'll take it in this context. Yeah.
It sounds dumb, but in the realms of listing, right? If you see, like I saw the crested mynas in Vancouver, right? They were established population. There were thousands at some point. They extended all the way to the U.S. Then they declined and disappeared. So it was like a blip of time they were around where they were countable. So if you saw them in that blip of time, you can count it in theory, right? You don't lose it, even though it went extinct. So I could see something as silly as, I saw bobwhites before a certain year, therefore I can count them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or
Well, it used to
I,
be that you would lose it. Like we actually made
Yeah.
we made that change back when I and some others were on that recording standards and ethics committee for the ABA. It used to be that if the thing went extinct, it was like, okay, it really wasn't established, and then you'd lose it. But we made that change sort of along like the same lines of California condors. Basically, like, okay, well, if we wait and decide, if we decide that you can't count these things until they're like firmly established and everything, basically, no one currently living will probably ever be able to count, quote unquote, count California condor on their list. So we made that change. And I think you could make the same case for this little bobwhite incident, which is that, it's more fun to be able to count it, and it's really no harm is done.
Right. And that's the key here is it's not biology. It's not conservation. It's just bird listing, right?
Exactly.
So the rules can be whatever. And I actually agree biologically that if you lasted 80 years and then you were extirpated, you really weren't established.
Yeah.
From a biological point of view, but from a listing point of view, if it got on the list, why not, count it during the time it was on the list?
Yeah.
It's two different ways of looking at the
in
same
that
info.
condition. That's like with a non-native species to begin with as well, if we're talking about the minus, right? Like, do you know if there have been any reintroduction efforts that were like conservation based in Pennsylvania that were not released as game birds, but actually released to restore the population?
I can't think of any. Yeah, I can't think of anything like that, but I do remember, and I can't remember if I mentioned this before here, but one of the most crazy things was some state politician introduced a bill that would have opened a hunting season on red-tailed hawks and great horned owls because they were believed to have an adverse effect on the pheasant population. Which is crazy. First of all, neither of those birds probably hardly ever eats pheasant to begin with, and pheasants have been going downhill for all, they're just not really supposed to be here, and the habitat's not great for them. But second of all, the idea of opening a hunting season on two native birds to try to conserve an introduced one is beyond ridiculous. But thankfully, it didn't get very far. It got shot down pretty quick.
That's not that far off from what happens in the UK, though. And, one of the over there, the birders and the hunters are really sort of at opposition in that you have these hunts for like red grouse and other game birds where they're in these big hunting estates, and within those estates, nobody goes in there. There's like they're sort of private, and the local wardens or whatever that are supposed to be caring for the population of these game birds shoot raptors. They're known to do so, and it's not legal, but shooting harriers and various other things is something that they're known to do. And you're like, this is insane, obviously, because it's such a simplistic way of looking at how an environment, a complex environment works, that, for all, it's obviously we want to have raptors, but B, it might actually be beneficial to have raptors for those game birds, who knows? Nobody studies it. It's all this, but they're shooting them.
It's crazy.
And that's in the land of the RSPB,
Yeah.
You just think that would not happen, but it does.
Well, crazy. Let me ask you this, guys. Speaking of non-native birds that are free flying at the moment, are you guys, either of you, considering a pilgrimage to New York to see Flacco the owl?
Definitely.
I was thinking the other day, if I like lived in New York City, would I justify going to see that owl just to see the spectacle of everything surrounding it?
That's what I was thinking too. I kind of would like to see the people enjoying Flacco as much as I would enjoy seeing Flacco himself. By the way, great name for an owl.
Around Flacco.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like it's crazy, but I love the name.
Flacco's like isn't he an escaped convict from jail, essentially? Criminal that's been killing rats and so forth.
Or is he sort of more of a
in
Robin
decent
Hood?
manner.
Like, is he more of like a Robin Hood like character who's a do-gooder, who's cleaning up those Norway rats around the parks
Right.
in New York with just
Does he
out of the
share
pure
his rats
goodness
with
of his
others?
heart.
Yeah, but what is okay? So I know it's this Eurasian eagle owl that escaped from the zoo and it's running, flying around Central Park. Is what I know.
Yeah, but did not
what?
escape.
How did it didn't? That's what I want to. What's the story?
I think it's pretty soundly stated that it was not an escapee, but an intentional release of someone who broke in and cut open the enclosure.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, apparently somebody like sliced open the enclosure, and Flacco said, "Thank you very much," and went on his merry way. It was pretty interesting, actually, on our Columbia Lifeless tour, which Molly and I just got back from really a few short days ago. And our friend Cameron was on the trip, and her dad works with the New York zoos, and we were getting like daily updates. She's like, "Oh no, Flacco got out. Flacco's on the loose." And we're like, first we're like,
Who's Flacco?
who's this Flacco? And what were they doing to him?
I read a New York Times article that said Flacco did not make the top 10 in the list of top 10 animals to see at the zoo.
This is so now he's like number one.
Yeah. But yeah, and then we just kind of kept getting updates.
She was like,
yeah.
And the last one was, it was sort of like, she's like, Flacco's learned to feed himself in the wild. Like, could be harder to get him back. And then it was like, okay, we're not, that like Cameron was our lifeline for information on Flacco until I got back here and realized that it was like a big story, man. It's like everywhere.
Yeah. So then you're telling me that essentially a group which we might call the FLF, the Flacco Liberation Front, was what might have been, who might claim responsibility for this,
Yeah, no, I think it is the FLF. Yeah.
I was trying to see if I could come up with a group that was the FLY, but it could
take a little more work. Yeah,
a little more work.
Tough to do on the fly, Al. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And Flaco means skinny in Spanish, so that suggests to me the zoo might have not been feeding him enough.
I was going to say, and Flacco looks pretty robust to me. He doesn't look like he doesn't look like he's trimmed down at all. At least maybe he had to be Flacco to get out when he got out of the exclosure, he had to be a little Flacco. Yeah. But since then, I mean, the photos I've been seeing, he doesn't look like he's hurting too much.
Yeah.
And I posted I thought it was going to be more funny than anything, on Facebook. Or,
it's never funny on Facebook. It's never funny.
People started getting, crazy, just, accusing folks of being stupid and not understanding how the environment works, and people saying that this one bird was going to pollute the gene pool of all of great horned owls in the entire earth. And you're like, oh my God, the reality is that the effect biologically this will have will probably be contained to Central Park, which is among, it's a great birding spot, but it's not really what I would call
pristine,
pristine treasure
mosaic of habitats.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
He's basically on an island. I mean, he's literally on an island, but he's also basically on an island of habitat.
Yeah. And just because something is not native doesn't mean that it's invasive, unless it has the capability of becoming invasive for whatever reason, which is not the case here.
Right. Yeah, he's not likely to clone himself.
I know. And I doubt it would even mate with a great horned owl, just because they're pretty different. I mean,
honestly, that would be really cool if it did. That would be so cool if that actually happened. That that would make this whole story much, much more interesting.
So you're going to get the angry letters now.
Oh yeah, bring them on.
Oh boy, yeah.
I love the passion. I love the passion.
Facebook thing.
Yeah,
the hybrids and this and that, and the pollution of the low, and they're Oh yeah.
The humaniacs, as we call them, the humaniacs.
But I gather there was also like the Flacco Liberation Front did not end, in its liberation of. Well, actually,
I don't think the fight was just given up to recapture Flacco because of the difficulty. I think that there was a human element that was starting to make that seem impossible.
Oh, really?
What I'm gathering from
24-hour vigils, of let Flacco be free kind of thing. And
the FLF is tireless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
seems like it.
I do think it's interesting though. It brings the question of zoos and the value of zoos and captive animals. And I think we've come a long way, but the really good work that zoos do and the vital work that zoos do is still kind of shrouded in entertainment value, for people, or it's, and I think some folks just say like, okay, is this necessary to have this, this animal, that animal, like what are you really getting? Right. Other than people are seeing it, right? And they're understanding a little bit more about it. Although some zoos do a really great educational component. Some don't, So
it
varies. Yeah. So I think there's part of that question is probably coming in here, and it, I've seen killer whales in captivity when I was a kid, and in Argentina, they had them over there. I remember seeing a boat once bringing in a killer whale from the ocean to this Mundo Marino place. That's in Argentina. You've probably seen it, George, in Punta Rasa.
Yes.
And just to see all that and go, oh, whoa, this is
basically imprisonment.
It's it didn't. And so there's some animals where we can relate to that in one way versus, gosh, you have a bunch of, I don't know, squirrels in an exhibit, let's say. I mean, they seem to be having a good time, or meerkats or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. And some of the herps, there's all sorts of stuff that can do just fine. But then, like orca in a little tank that's been removed from the wild is quite a different thing than many other things. Yeah. I remember too, like, the zoos as a kid, they just make such a massive impression on you, especially if you are, predisposed to being a nature nerd like all of us. And I still remember vividly seeing the cats. I've always been fascinated by cats, and seeing what was essentially just a prison for cats, these big cats like black panthers, black leopards. And they were I was
thinking of the exact same scenario in my head, and just thinking of a black leopard pacing back and forth.
Yes. Yeah. And like, that's what I remember is basically and at the time it just looked terrifying and beautiful all at once. But you think basically this thing's been driven mad. It's just been driven mad. And it's, seeing what the zoos a lot of zoos now are doing is amazing and wonderful. And, and I do think there is real value in, like we've talked about before, if people can't see it, it's hard for them to care a lot of the time. And just being in the presence of some of these animals can be pretty life-changing, but it is a delicate balance. And it's a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here the Monterey Bay, aquarium, for example, has I wouldn't call it a zoo, but it's got captive animals of various kinds, fish and all sorts of marine critters, no whales or anything. But the amount of work that they do on research, conservation, education, and the fact that they focus just on the critters that are in here, like in the California, mainly Monterey Bay, it's like a way to actually see the bay that you don't have access to. And I think that's really a creative way to do it. Rather than having, all sorts of tropical fish that you can look at, and, kind of it's so some places really do it well, and are really dedicated to the conservation and research aspect of this. So I'm not knocking zoos, but I'm trying to think of the mentality maybe of some of those folks who are like opposed to having it be brought back to the zoo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're seeing like, it's just this one owl, and it's like, let it just fly free, and kind of like, that's kind of cool. Others who are saying, absolutely not. It wasn't cool when the first starling arrived here, and, look what happened,
Yeah.
So I can see both sides, but it's only one owl. It's not
Well,
15.
I see, first off, just the public, like, or parts of the public promoting the precedent that you can cut an animal free and that's okay, I think really sucks. Like, that's the part that gets me pretty fired up about this. Just
that's a slippery slope right there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that zoos, I guess I kind of see two parts to it, that they're, one, using their opportunity to promote research and conservation and studying species in a way that they otherwise couldn't. And then second, educating the public on that and allowing the public to see like the why and the purpose that makes it possible. So I don't envy anyone who's working in the New York City zoos right now and is figuring out how to deal with this. But I do think it's an opportunity for education and to continue sharing all sorts of aspects of why the owl's there in the first place and what the situation is.
It sort of reminded me of Molly, when we were down in Colombia, we learned about the hippos. The hippos in Colombia, which is, some people know about this, but a lot of people
are from Africa, dude.
I was going to say, some people are probably hearing me saying hippos in Colombia and like, what is he talking about? But I'm sure a lot of folks know too that the infamous Pablo Escobar had some pet hippos in his place. I forget where the spot is exactly. It was not in Medellin. It was outside of Medellin a ways, but
wasn't it his ranch that had the airplane?
Yeah.
Like on the,
I don't remember where that is.
I mean, like the entrance, and it's got like an airplane stuck to it or something.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, you haven't seen that image?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Well, it's like an iconic image of the entrance to his ranch.
Huh.
It was like a big gate or something, or facade, but there's a small little Piper plane that's actually
Piper plane
glued on onto the thing. Like crazy. Just talk about people who can do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like the reaction, Al, is not what Molly and I were hearing about. Was not so different, really, from what you're talking about with Flacco, because basically people, well-intentioned people want to like save the hippos without realizing that these things are enormous and proliferating quickly. Like, I think there's triple digits now. And they're like destroying the habitat around there. And the only way to deal with this is to go in there and, and to shoot them, basically.
Lions, right? Bring in lions.
Yeah. Mongoose. That always works.
Mongoose.
Yeah.
Actually, if you brought lions, they're lonely. So you want to bring in some other big things like, rhinos, and then bring in some elephants, and then lions.
You're talking sense.
Big animals like big friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you watch cartoons, you'll know the big animals like to hang out with other big animals.
Yeah. And lonely lions, huh? Yeah. It's like, it's the only social cat, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
There is a missed opportunity, though, in the Flacco story. And, well, I don't know about the hippos, but at least in Flacco, none of the newspapers or news outlets have been talking about what it is to be native versus a
Yes.
non-native critter, right? Like why it matters. It's more like, look at this, the owl's free. People love them, whatever.
Right.
And that's the totally missed opportunity here, because the average person doesn't know really what wild stuff means.
Right.
Versus if it's flying wild and free, they figure that's a wild animal, wild bird. They don't realize that there's more to it than that. And we haven't done a good enough job at explaining, the problems with non-native creatures and what they do.
Agreed. They could be a little more curious too, however. But I think I can't tell you how many people I know, that I consider pretty well educated folks, that when a conversation turns to cats, feral cats, outdoor cats, they say, well, they're natural predators. They're natural predators. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, they're not natural predators here, but people, they just think, well, they're doing what they're supposed to do. I'm like, no, that's not the way this works.
Yeah. They are doing what they're supposed to do, but they're just doing it
like on an individual level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
talking about like, it's not escapees, but this whole idea of, the press not sometimes being curious. I saw this thing that came out it was in a newspaper, at least the online version in the UK, of a flightless cormorant that was seen in some channel somewhere in some place in the UK. And there's photos of it. It's a common great cormorant, like the cormorant, it's just swimming around the channel. Yeah. It's great cormorant.
Oh, it's a great cormorant. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great cormorant. And some person saw it and said, this is a Galapagos flightless cormorant. Oh my God, phone's a newspaper, I guess. And
they are big. Flightless cormorants are big, to be fair.
Yeah. And they made a whole story about what's it doing here and how did it get here and what's happening. And it's obviously not flightless cormorant. And there's great photos of it. It's just amazing that they would even bother writing something up without double checking anything. It's just, but that, yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be maybe they're working diligently at the New York Times to really suss out the entire Flaco story, and we're going to get
a textured, interpretation.
Colorful.
Yeah.
Well, not to burst that bubble, but I did read a New York Times article on this that came out just a few days ago that was talking about just the spectacle of people out looking at the owl, which
and that was it. That was basically all I said.
Culture. Yeah. It just amazes me. It's really fascinating to me that you just have such a following of there were also photos of the resident great horned owls, and I was like, man, we don't have that in these parts. But just completely talking about exactly. It was very one-sided. There was no additional viewpoint of questioning if the owl shouldn't be out there. Just no take of curiosity at all to just kind of look at other sides of the situation. And I was like, man, I don't know if that's the end of it or not, but
they to your point earlier, Molly, is that they do. The article I'm looking at now says that this was the 4th zoo crime of the year. So that there was 3 other things, I don't know what they were, that would have been turned loose by quote unquote do-gooders or vandals, depending on your perspective. I think most of us would probably consider them vandals. If you're turning an animal loose in a landscape where it's not native, you're maybe doing it more harm than good much of the time.
And you're doing harm to all sorts of other animals.
Yeah.
Even if it's one individual, there is some effect. But can we agree on one thing? We can agree that if Flaco can make it there, Flaco can make it anywhere, Can we agree on that?
I see one tweet here that says Pete Davidson was seen out to dinner with Flaco, the owl who escaped from the Central Park Zoo. So Flaco's keeping pretty good company out there, it looks like.
I know. I mean, if Flacco makes it to Saturday Night Live, that'd be pretty interesting.
That'd be impressive. Yeah.
Flacco's doing a good job of networking. I think Flacco's planned for this moment for a long time.
I can't believe he doesn't have a Twitter account yet. You got to figure somebody would start a Twitter account for Flacco.
Yeah, is Flacco going to last longer than Liz Truss, the UK Prime Minister, lasted 2 months?
He'll have a longer career, longer.
Yeah. I might actually put a head of lettuce out and say,
that's true.
Who's going to outlast, Flacco or the head of lettuce?
I'm sure there's McDonald's cheeseburgers lying around in places that'll outlive. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
What happens if that's another aspect of this, right? Let's say Flacco's found, run over or just dead from poisoning, rat poison or something, and it's, and there you go. Was that worth the vandalism to get him free,
right.
I don't know.
Well,
and if he lasts 20 years, what does that mean,
Right. If he's found dead due to rat poisoning pretty quickly, the people that are responsible for his, for cutting him loose, so to speak, I suspect they would not take any responsibility for that. But as a friend of mine likes to say, you can't factor out what wasn't factored in. So,
Let me think about that. But boy, we've two very, very heavy topics.
I'll say
eBird, the February earthquake of
the
eBird.
the theft of my Bobwhite,
the theft of the Flacco and his, Liberation Front and fans and detractors, and I mean, the world is certainly divvying up the pro-Flacco, anti-Flacco people. It's like really,
these are wild times. They really are
wild times, and it's probably uniting a lot of New Yorkers around the bird, though, which is, New York is a little odd about some of these things. It's funny. I was wondering if there is an element of that, of like the New York, everybody goes there, everybody, people live there for generations, others that come in there to do their thing and they're from elsewhere, and you're kind of brought into this melting pot of people or whatever, that somehow it's the best place for Flacco to be. Like if Flacco was, I don't know, in Yosemite or something, people would be like, get him out. Like,
right.
Like polluting the landscape. He's like, doesn't belong, and he'd be gone pretty soon. I wonder if that's also part of it.
But in New York, he kind of fits in.
Urban.
You're saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like you're always going to find someone to support anything in New York.
Yeah. And,
boy,
and
I can
people
feel
might
the letters.
even like,
the letters are coming in. You guys are you're stoking the fires. It's all right.
People might just sort of say, hey, look, I wasn't born here either, and I live here and I like it. So does Flacco, like, I don't know. Because it's a little different, than Philly, George. People.
Yeah, no, people have sense down
New
here.
York, they, people move out of Philly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, people that lack common sense do. Yes, yeah.
If you don't want to be here, get out.
Yeah, good riddance.
That's right.
So long, suckers. Yeah.
Gosh, there's a lot of that in my town. It's basically like, you got something to complain about? Leave.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
A small town attitude here.
The ultimate NIMBYs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I wanted to pivot to asking Molly Brown about two things. Two things. One is that, and we should start with I don't want to bury the lead here, Molly. That I think you have some news that I think even Alvaro does not know. But that you revealed to us on our Lifeless trip in Colombia, that I think folks would love for you to share if you're open to that. And now that I've put you on the spot, maybe you'd be willing to.
Yeah. Well, a couple exciting things are happening in my life. First off, I got engaged. So that's the big news.
Right.
Yeah.
Boom.
Congrats.
Yes. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's so awesome. So happy for you
Thank
guys.
you very much. What better way to announce it than on a podcast? Yeah. So I can kind of talk through our plan for engagement. So we've talked about getting married for a while. And as I've also mentioned a few times, we've talked about building a house or been attempting to build a house for
this is the other one I
a year and a half.
I'm eager to hear about this one. Yeah.
Long story short, it's a pain in the ass to build a house right now. And we're just not making a lot of progress. So something that we had wanted to do at some point in the future was have like a second spot on our property that was a sort of like studio, guest house, maybe Airbnb type thing. So we just pivoted and decided we would run with that, and we bought a tiny house that's on order, so it'll be a few months before we actually get it. It'll come this summer. So yeah, then we decided, well, I guess we have a house in some iteration now. So we got engaged too.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
New house,
all sorts of good things.
And engagement. That doesn't get much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Hey, you're doing it all at one time, like just like sort of like the whole package,
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. They weren't immediately together, but yeah, it's been an exciting couple weeks.
That's so cool.
And what is the actual definition of a tiny house? Like what makes it?
See, I'm fascinated. I look at all these things on Instagram all the time. And so like when you told me that you guys were looking at this, I was like, oh, no way. I'm like so fascinated by tiny houses.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
Yeah. Well, the square footage of the house that we're getting is actually, what is it? 550 square feet. So I could see it being argued that that's not a tiny house. I mean, houses are big because everything's cheap and there's a lot of space around here. So there aren't many like apartments and that type thing. But I know that I know a lot of people who live in very small spaces.
Yeah, in New York, that would be again in New York that'd be a good amount of space. Yeah, like I lived in a 700 square foot condo for quite a while, and so. Yeah, for me alone, that was plenty of space, but much more than that.
Yeah, well, not to mention we're putting it on 40 acres. So if we don't have interior space, we've got plenty of space outside to play around. But and we hadn't actually planned on buying something. We had thought we would build something ourselves. And we just happened to find a company that had them available and ran with it. But the actual definition of this one, it's on a trailer. So it's called a park model. So it's like built into a flatbed trailer. It's 12 feet wide. So it's you have to like have special permits, I think, to drive them. And we're meaning for it to be permanent. But or be semi-permanent anyway, but it will stay on the trailer. So we're going to kind of build a foundation around it. It's got like your regular water electric hookups. And we purchased it from a company that has it like ready to move in when they deliver it. So it's literally hook it up and you've got it.
It's so wild.
So yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, and honestly, I really liked the layout. I think we've got plenty of storage. Like we don't have a lot of things anyway.
Did you say it's got like a little bit of a deck or like a little bit of an outdoor space that's up high?
Yeah. It came, well, there's a loft inside, and then it came with a 12 by 10 foot deck as like part of it. So that's in addition to the interior square footage.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got a spot picked out, and we're going to build a second deck down below and terrace it a little bit.
That's going to help the yard listing a little bit there too. That'll be good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We marched right out to the property and had a very serious discussion on what way we wanted the windows to face and like how that would work for what we could see and whatnot. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yep.
Are they fully like, winterized and the whole deal with like, it's, yeah, I don't know enough about them, to.
Well, I mean, I think they run the full gamut, but yeah, what we bought is insulated, and entirely ready to live in. They're made in Pennsylvania.
Great state.
And meant to be, and meant to be year-round homes. So, yep. And it's like a log cabin style. It's pine.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. there's been a real push for, changing the laws to allow people have sort of that units in the backyard kind of thing, and especially to help with the problem of nobody can afford a place to live in lots of parts of California, coastal California. And it's interesting that multiple different models of different ways of doing this have happened. And there's also little small lots that show up in our town sometimes. And you see these little skinny little houses, which I always figure out that must be kind of considered a tiny house or whatever, because it fits into this really narrow lot. And they are apparently incredibly efficient in space use. So it's like, but I've never been inside one, so I don't know what it's like. And, hopefully we'll have more little houses popping up here in California as in the next few years, because there's a huge problem with lack of places to live.
Yeah. I'm super excited about this, and we do still plan on building a house, which is like 1,400 square feet. Like, it's a small house that we have planned to build as well. So we'll still work on that. We just don't have the pressure to do it, to get out to our property quickly. Now we can take our time and be more hands-on with it if we're already living out there in another space. But yeah, I am so excited. I really like having a small space. We live in a fairly small space now, and I just like not feeling like I need to fill every void with stuff. So that's not like, it's not the same sort of space limitation here that it is in, like you're talking about, Alvaro. But I'm super excited to have a little sliver of that.
So have you considered making a pond in the backyard and then introducing hippos just as a consideration?
We are building a pond. That's a great idea to stock it with hippos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say bring the pygmy hippos. They're smaller. And it's little.
Good advice.
And they like forest. So.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm totally pulling for Flacco to find a great horned owl mate now. I love that concept. I hope that happens.
Oh, I don't know. You're going to get
chaos.
Chaos. That's right.
There might be people who are trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
Playing voices of a great horned owl near Flacco so that, attract.
Oh, Al, just you. You are a mischief maker. My goodness.
Yeah. But in all of this introduction of stuff, we have this concept of what is good for the environment, not etc. Yet there are thousands, millions of stocked fish that are introduced to all sorts of lakes all over Canada and US. Some of them non-native, some of them not from those lakes originally. And I always think about how we've done that behind the scenes where nobody's sort of thinking about what the original ecological cost
the trout in South America. It's like
yeah.
Basically, a lot of those places have hardly any native fish left.
But even most lakes in Ontario, they're stocked. I mean, everything is stocked with it's whether it's smallmouth bass, largemouth bass. Some of those things are obviously native, but they're kept going at numbers that are probably beyond what's normal. But there's money to be made in fishing, so you don't.
I feel like catfish will outsurvive everything. It's like those things, crazy. They get huge sometimes too.
Yeah. Catfish,
delicious
as well. Yeah.
I thought about that in Colombia as I was ordering trout on a regular basis to eat, which I love the way they make fish in Colombia. It's so good. I'm like, am I helping by, eating a tiny dent in the population, or am I spurring demand to continue it? And
it's so ingrained down there now. I mean,
I think aren't those a lot of those trout though? They're in
farms,
like breeding facilities, or basically these ponds where they run water through them. But the fish aren't actually swimming around in the streams.
I think that is true, but I think prior to having those, right, there were pretty widespread introductions, is my understanding, in a lot of places. But I don't have a firm knowledge.
Chile, everything, including salmon, of course.
Yeah.
Huh. Well.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to our time here, guys.
What?
Yeah. One thing I wanted to know, Al, is where you been and where you going?
I don't even remember the last time we talked because you guys were away. I was away, but I was
it's been a while.
Chile again in January. Did a trip and saw a couple of species I hadn't seen before in Chile.
So that was Get some Chile birds.
Yeah, yellow crown night heron. I don't know if I mentioned that before. And a provisional great-tailed grackle. So
eBird's probably going to strike those down.
I'm going to strike those down. And I've been working on tours and other things here, and I don't go on a tour until April when I go to Bhutan via Thailand. So
that sounds
forward to that.
Just fine.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good. But otherwise, I've been here thinking a lot about weather because the weather has been crazy in California.
Yeah.
We've gone from the worst drought ever to the biggest snowpack ever to record cold right now.
Yeah, I got a friend in Southern California who's from Philly originally, and he's always bragging about the weather. And I'm like, dude, you've had more snow than we have this year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little crazy. And there's this, so the setup, which is like the night, you know how like weather people love to set up the nightmare scenarios, is there. It's packed with snow all over the place, anywhere higher than, 2,000 feet or 1,000, whatever it is, depending on where you are. And it's possible that midway through March, we're going to get big, warm storms, the same kind of, Pineapple Express thing that we had earlier in the year, just basically warm water gushing into the state. And if that water hits all of that snow, you could get a 100-year flood situation in the entire sort of northern Central Valley.
Wow.
Where it seems, that's never going to happen, but it actually has happened in the past. So people are like, this looks a little bit like that, 1990 whatever flood, and I guess that's the worry, or what'll happen with this this weather that's going to come up, and it's still just modeled, right? It's far enough out that people don't know if it will happen, but
right?
The models all show that it could. So, it's not over. March is always kind of the
fickle month. It's a fickle month.
Yeah, that's the month.
Yeah.
That's the one where it gets warm and everything. Hey, it's spring. Then you suddenly got walloped by snow or something in Ontario. I remember the same thing. So,
yeah.
Evil March.
Yeah. It is. It is very fickle. Yeah.
March and November, they're like the 2 months that are, if you want to travel somewhere, leave those months. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. George, what are you up to?
Yeah, I leave in a week for Tanzania for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So Serengeti, Ngorongoro Crater, Tarangire National Park, some stuff around Arusha, where you fly in there to Kilimanjaro. So I expect, with my social media posts to get like a lot of like Toto Africa references. The Rains of Africa song, I'm sure, is gonna pop up a lot in my social media feed. I do love that song, by the way.
I was gonna say, it never gets old, right?
No, it's such a great song. Yeah. It's a classic forever. So no, I'm super, super excited about it. It's been a trip that's been a long time coming. We got some great folks and friends coming. So Yeah, we're doing the mobile tented camps out in the Serengeti where you're right there with the migration. And it should be downright spectacular. It's one of my favorite trips I've ever done, so I'm really, really excited to get back there and do it again. And so that'll be fantastic, I certainly hope. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I just got home from our trip. Like, how are you recovering from Colombia, Molly? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I know I'm settled in. I'm not traveling that much in March. So I feel okay knowing I have time to, catch up on things and get back in a rhythm and whatnot. And then got a road trip coming up in April, going to a wedding in Key West.
Oh wow.
Road tripping down, gonna catch a lot of migration and exciting Southern Florida birds. Too.
Yeah, that's a good time of year to be.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be a great time of year to be down there.
For a wedding there.
Yeah. Somebody was thinking with their noggin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The one bird you don't want to look for there is Key West quail dove, by the way. It's like, just don't bother. They're not there.
Oh yeah. It is a very questionable named bird, but a great looking bird.
Great. Yeah. But I mean, I do wonder if it's occurred more than once.
Yeah. Yeah. Puerto Rico's a good spot for them, but yeah. Yeah.
Cuba.
Yeah. Well, I did want to tell folks, especially my friends here in Pennsylvania, that I hope I will see them at the Pennsylvania Society of Ornithology conference that is coming up in May. I'll be the keynote speaker there, the 20th of May. And I am revamping my talk, Pornithology, the birds and the birds and the bees. So any listeners that have sort of some, naughty habits of birds that you want to share, I could use examples. I've been collecting them for some years, so I have some, but especially anything new that's come out about naughty and nasty, crazy behavior in breeding birds. Would love to hear it because I'm gonna retool this talk a bit, and I'm looking forward to giving that.
I would suggest you actually don't give this talk and instead give, the distribution and historical abundance of northern bobwhite in the Philly region, a personal account. I think it would be the better talk. And I see you there getting angry and shaking your fist, showing a picture of the eBird output, going like, who did this?
You always have such great advice, Alvaro. I really appreciate it. Really.
I do. I know. I don't know why people don't listen to me.
I know.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But I've seen your talk, the Pornithology talk, way back, and it was funny and interesting and lots of good biology. Just this marvel of what is out there in the bird world.
Birds do weird stuff. Birds do weird stuff. Weird, wild stuff. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, Al, that folks should definitely take a look at your gull videos that you've produced of late. Those are really, really great.
Thanks.
I gave my gull talk a couple nights ago, and I always tell people I'm not a gull expert, but I am a serious gull enthusiast. You are actually a gull expert, and I always learn a lot from those. I really appreciate them. Very cool.
I never feel very expert. I feel like I paid a lot of attention over time, but I always, come away from a gull flock shaking my head just like everybody else.
They're tough.
But
they can be
fun.
Yeah, they're fun. Yeah. That's the main thing, I think. Yeah.
That's what I like. I mean, I don't necessarily want to know the actual answer. I don't need to, but the process of thinking about what could be going on, hybrids or this or that, I like that. Not knowing sometimes.
Yeah, that was one of my keys. I said basically, the secrets really. There's no real secrets. It's like time. Know your normies, as I say. Know your regulars, and like accept and embrace uncertainty, and also realize at the same time that actually most of the ones you do see are identifiable, and don't despair. Those were kind of the main points I tried to hammer home. But yeah. All right. Well, guys, we ought to scoot. But thanks everybody for listening, and appreciate all the notes. We did record a lot while we were down in Colombia, so Molly and I have some stuff coming out I hope you'll be looking forward to. Interview with Jennifer Ackerman, an interview with Chris Bell, and then sort of a roundtable discussion that we did with Nate Swick from the ABA podcast and Chris Bell from the Birders Show. So those are all coming up in the not too distant future. And we'll sprinkle those in with our other normal episodes here. But thanks again to everyone for listening. Thanks to Kowa Sporting Optics for sponsoring us. And we look forward to being back with you soon. Take care, guys.
See you next time.